every tree, the Bible says, that bringeth not forth good fruit will be cut down. This is how serious God is about us being productive. It'll be cut down and it will be cast into the fire. Why is God so serious? Why is God so adamant about us being productive? Because so much has went into us. Because of what has been given, because of what has been placed, because of what has been made available to us. This is why God can put so high of a standard on being productive. Because of the relationship we should produce. Because of the seed that was planted in the ground. There is an expectation to produce or to be productive. Genesis chapter 39, you can write that down in your notes. Genesis chapter 39, as a matter of fact, that entire chapter, if I'm not mistaken, we see where Rachel was beseeching Jacob to give her children. We know the story of Leah, who was not as pretty or as lovely as Rachel. But one thing that Leah had on Rachel is that she could produce. I may not be as pretty as you or fine as you, or I may not dress like you, but one thing I can do that you can't do, I can produce. Because after a while, any kind of real man would get tired of looking at a woman looking in the mirror all the time trying to be pretty. Y'all follow me. Ain't nothing wrong with looking good. But if you're looking good and can't produce, you're pretty, but you can't produce. You're pretty, but you're not an asset to this relationship. You're fine and you got it going on, yeah, physically, but you're not an asset. You're a liability. You're dead. You pretty dead weight. And this is something that Leah didn't understand at the moment. She was steady trying to please Jacob. But Jacob, being fleshly and carnal at the time, he was caught up in beauty. Men folk, you better listen to me today. Young men, you better listen to me today. Don't get caught up in beauty. That's fine. But make sure you got a woman that's got something up here. Make sure you got a woman that'll work and get behind you and help you out and push you and encourage you. And that's your spiritual partner. And the list goes on and on. Because beauty can only take you so far. Looking good will only take you to the bedroom. But if you want to go farther than the bedroom, be productive. I feel like preaching today. Looking good will only get you physical satisfaction. But if you want more in life, anybody want more in life? Good God Almighty. Well, hook up with somebody who is productive. Leah said, I might not be that cute. But when something is given to me, oh, here we go. When something is given to me, unlike you, I can take it and produce something. Y'all grown folks, you got to follow me. But when it's given to you, it hits a dead wound. And what's expected, what should come out of intimacy is nothing but smoke, glitter, and lights. Okay. Jacob's seed, when it hit Leah's womb, it produced. Now y'all listen to me. When his seed hit her womb, she produced. When his seed hit Rachel's womb, it produced nothing. And the same seed that produced in Leah, it didn't work in Rachel. The same word. They both sat up under, here we go, y'all got it. Up under the same word. The same word hit this side. See, y'all should have pulled up earlier. Y'all were saying the same thing. I will go in his name. Oh, but this side seemed to be a little bit slower than this side. Same song, same keyboard, same drum, same lyrics, but different results. Which lets me know that there's nothing wrong with the seed. So there must be something wrong with the womb. Leah produced, but Rachel, because of the barrenness of her womb. In other words, because of the barrenness of her loins. Young people, y'all remember we talked about, the Bible said, gird up the loins of your mind. Because your mind is the spiritual reproductive area. When the soldiers would go out and fight, they would gird up their loins. This was from up under your chest, about down to a little bit above your knee. They would make sure that all of this was protected, because if that was damaged, they could not reproduce. So they had the wherewithal to know that before I go out in the battlefield, I got to make sure that I gird up the loins of my mind. Because if my thinking ever gets damaged out there, there is no way that I can reproduce and be productive as God has commanded me to be. So before I go to school, I got to make sure I gird up the loins of my mind. Before I go on the job, I got to make sure I gird up the loins of my mind. I got to make sure that I'm meditated and prayed up and I'm fasted up. Before I step out there on the battlefield, I got to make sure my mind is not cluttered with confusion and mess and junk. I got to spend time with God and make sure that whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things that are of a good report, I got to think on these things, because I got to gird up the loins of my mind, because there's a battle out there, and if you get your mind messed up, you can't reproduce anything. Gird up the loins of your mind. The soil of the mind. The soil of the womb. And there are different types of soil. Luke chapter 8, verses 11 through 15, he says, I've waited 3 years, and there hasn't been a single fig. So he said to the gardener, his son, Jesus, cut it down. It's just taking up space in the garden. In other words, it's wasting my time. It's in the way of something else I could put here. And the gardener answered. Somebody say, thank God, for Jesus. Do y'all know what y'all just said? He's seated at the right hand of the Father, saying, don't cut it down. Thank God for the shedding. Thank God for the resurrection, because it all propelled him to being our high priest that is making intercession to the Father. So when I don't do it just right, the gardener says, God, don't cut them down. Good God Almighty. And the Father looks in the eyes of the gardener and say, because you said, boy, I wish See, it has nothing to do with you per se. Because the gardener could have said, all right, I cut. But the gardener said, remember my works. Remember my blood. Remember my sacrifice. Remember the nails. Remember the crown of thorns. Don't cut them down. For my sake, Father, I know they messed up, but for my sake, some of y'all say, I still ain't got it. I don't care nothing about my voice. I'm finna preach. For my sake, don't give up on her, God. I know yes, I know they messed up. But it ain't about what they did or didn't do. It's about what I did on the cross. So, Father, give them one more year. Yeah, you here today because the gardener said, give them one more year. It ain't because you were so good. It ain't because you did it just right. But the gardener looked at the husbandman. The gardener looked at God and says, give me one more year. God, I thank God for Jesus. I said, I thank God for Jesus. I thank thank God for Jesus. Let God almighty. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, I thank God for Jesus. Lord have mercy. I thank God for Jesus. I don't know what he means to you, but I thank God for Jesus. If you could be a fly on my wall, you will say, thank God for Jesus. Lord, we thank you. The gardener said, give him one more year. We stand here today because Jesus looked in the eyes of his Father and he said, for me. Jesus. And this, and this helps me to understand grace. This